Hey guys, Gaston with Rough Country. Today we're installing our MLC-6 multiple light controller in this Jeep TJ. Let's take a look and see what's in the box. All right, we've got our harness that goes from our switches to our control unit. We've got our power wire with self-resetting circuit breaker. We've got our main ground, connectors, shrink tube, hardware, and zip ties. We've got our control panel with switches already installed. And last but certainly not least, we've got our control unit already installed on its bracket. We're gonna go ahead and install the control unit first. That way we know where we're gonna route our wires to and just how long they need to be. Once we do that, we'll go ahead and go inside and mount the gauge pod and get it all set up. All right, so on this application, the unit actually mounts to the firewall right about here. You can route your wires however you want to. I've got wires coming from a windshield mount 50 as well as a pod on each A-pillar. I'm gonna go into the cowl. I'm gonna pop a hole in the firewall, put a grommet in that. That way I've got the cleanest insulation coming straight to the MLC-6. So I'm gonna do that and then we'll mount the unit. There are two 15mm bolts on the firewall, one on this side with a body ground and one on the exact opposite side. We'll remove those, put the unit in place, and bolt it in at that location. All right, we've got the main unit attached to the firewall. We've got our lighting ran to the main unit, the wiring for our lighting rather. Now we're gonna go ahead and run our main ground and power leads to the battery. We're not gonna hook those up just yet, but we're gonna get them in place. Then we'll go through and hook each individual light up to a separate channel. Once we've got that squared away, we'll take our pod harness, run it through a grommet in the firewall up to its proper location, and we'll get the pod mounted. All right, with everything connected and the pod mounted, we are ready to connect our positive lead to our positive side of the battery and our negative lead to the negative side of our battery. We'll get that connected, drop the hood down, and test it out. We've got everything on the MLC-6 routed and installed. Now we're ready to connect our positive lead to the positive side of our battery and our negative lead to our negative side of our battery. Once we do that, we'll start the Jeep to activate the low voltage sensor, and then we'll test the unit out. All right, so we're gonna start wiring in. This is a lead for one of the pods. The pods are gonna share a channel, so we'll double them on channel 2. The white wire on all of these is to light up the DRL. I'm gonna put the DRL on channel 1. That way, with one hit of the switch, all the DRLs light up. All right, we've got the control unit mounted. We've got all our wiring ran and tucked away really nice. We've got terminals on the end of each wire connected to each channel, including tying all of our DRLs together in one channel. We're pretty much done under the hood. What we need to do now is route our wiring harness into the cab. Actually, I'm gonna route it from the cab into the engine compartment because that plug is smaller. It's gonna be easier to get through a grommet. There's a grommet just below where we mounted this bolt. We're gonna run through that grommet, come up and plug in here. I'm gonna take this fiberglass rod, I'm gonna go into the cab. Once we get in there, we'll pop off the defrost vent. We'll drop the harness down, connect it, and pull it through into the engine compartment. Got my harness, got a zip tie to attach it to that rod so I can pull it into the engine compartment. Let's get this harness ran. All right, now that we're in the cab, we're gonna pull the defrost panel from the back side of the dash out of the way. And I'm gonna drop our harness down between the firewall and the dash. It should come out somewhere by the gas pedal. I've got the rod that we pushed in through the firewall down there. I'll zip tie the harness to the rod. We'll open the hood back up and pull the harness into the engine compartment. It's easy as that. All right, here's our harness that we dropped down from the top. I'm gonna take a zip tie, connect it to our rod, pull it into the engine compartment. Fold that back. All right, that's the final connection under the hood. We can go ahead and put the lid on the main unit. And we'll drop the hood down and mount and connect the pod. And that's going to complete the installation. With the harness connected to the main unit, ran into the cab and up on top of the dash, we're ready to install our switch pod. This switch pod is fully assembled, has 6 rocker style switches. You can have it illuminated, or there's a button on the side to turn those off. All we have to do is plug in one plug from that harness and we'll be ready to go. We're gonna take the screws out of the side. And that is gonna take the upper portion from the mounting bracket. This is gonna sit in the dash. We're gonna mark our 2 holes, use the screws provided to mount this firmly in that change tray on top of the dash. Once we do that, we'll set the pod on top of it, connect it. We'll do a little bit of clearancing on the defrost panel and we'll be done. Let's get going. I actually have to do this in my hand. Barbaric. All right, we're gonna get this in place, figure out where we need to trim. Looks like it's gonna be right about here. Nice. We got the defrost panel back on, everything's buttoned up. Now it's time to start the vehicle. Go ahead and get the low voltage sensor activated and we can turn the lights on and test the system out. You can see all the switches are lit up, but I can press the switch, turn them off, turn them back on. Let's run through it. Let's check the DRLs. Great, and now let's run through the rest of them. Woo, plenty of light, brother. And that concludes the install of the MLC-6 light controller for the Jeep TJ. A simple install that you can do in less than an afternoon. We got rid of a lot of unnecessary wiring and really cleaned up the engine compartment. And we know that whenever we hit a switch, we're gonna get a light. We offer multiple light controllers for an array of vehicles. So for this and every other tool you need to command the dark, check us out at roughcountry.com.